Hello.
Well, hello.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So I think this was going to be pretty open, informal. Maybe say a little bit about ourselves. So actually, Pete, why don't you start and tell us, not just in music, but what's your background in product development and engineering?
Oh, cool. I could take 40 minutes.
Just a quick one, just so they know what you're getting into.
Okay.
I think it's good.
Hey, folks. So I'm Pete Goodliffe. I am VP of Software for inMusic Brands, which is a really dull name for a really fun company. I don't know if you know or not, but that's Akai, Elasis, Audio, Headrush, our guitar brand, Newmark, Rain. So we do, it's a company that makes a whole ton of really fun audio products. Air, our great plugin brand. We are we're in DJ, we're in keyboards, we're in music production, guitar. We make sort of desktop DAWs, we make beat production studios, we make drum kits. We make a shed ton of stuff, and it's a fascinating company because historically it was a hardware company, but now we're a hardware company with just a bad software habit, really. The software department is the largest part of the entire company. So yeah, I hold all the power.
I love it. That sounds good. Yeah, and I believe we met before through the DigiDesign side. So I spent about 17 years at DigiDesign doing product development. 9 years of those were doing algorithmic design for the plugins, but also doing all the DSP hardware. And then a product called 11, which kind of turned into Headrush.
Yeah, it totally did. I
spent 2 years of my life just doing analog modeling with a amazing team of engineers, doing, 12 amps, 5 bass amps, and then
it's a great product.
On and on. Thank you so much. It sounds exactly the same as I remember it.
Yeah. Totally
It's brilliant. Yeah. We thought it would be kind of fun to do an informal chat on where we see product development kind of going after all this time. I have a lot of questions, but I'm hoping that you have questions too. I think the whole idea was to keep this sort of an ad lib. So what if we opened it up? Is there any in particular topic you want to hear us talk about, or you just, kind of pontificate on?
I dare you to ask something complicated. I'm up for geeky topics about audio programming, just product design, or anything in music-y. Just challenge us. And anyone online, if there's anything you'd like to ask as well?
Yes, and I have the online chat going too. If you're online and you've got some topics you'd like us to talk about. So online decided to go first, so you'll have to. Anonymous has asked, and I'm always worried about Anonymous. I saw that inMusic are looking for a junior C++ developer. What do you guys consider as junior? Can someone just learning C++ and working on her first plugin be considered junior?
Okay, that's a great place to start because this isn't supposed to be a thinly veiled hiring pitch, but I go for that. I'll answer that in a slightly more wishy-washy way. What I really love is seeing devs grow and develop. And it's a privilege to work with some of the I have people who are DSP geniuses that I wouldn't understand some of the stuff they do. And we have people coming in right now. We're checking some new interns coming in. And I absolutely love the idea of just seeing people grow and develop through their career. I don't know if you've seen any of my other talks. I really care about good code. I really care about working really well in teams. And I'm very proud of the teams that we have doing this stuff. And so, yes, we're looking for junior programmers. We're looking for interns because it's exciting to see those people come in and build the next generation of really cool stuff and learn from people much better than me. So in terms of the hiring positions, come give us a shout. And we're looking for people at all levels. So, but this shouldn't be a thinly veiled hiring pitch. But thank you for the question.
So Anonymous, don't make yourself anonymous to Pete. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Come on, ask me something complicated.
So we're going to do the mic just so that our online attendees can hear us. Yes.
You mentioned a whole bunch of stuff, hardware, software.
Nope. Try again. It's an audio conference. Come on.
So, are you up for hiring people who could turn remote mics on?
That's the bar to entry.
You mentioned you've got all these products and software, hardware, and from companies you've acquired. Now, when you got those, presumably they've all got their own way of validating their products, either from the code perspective or from a signal perspective. How do you manage all of those? Is there any attempt to sort of harmonize a common test platform? What do you do in terms of automation?
Okay, so very specifically test, right? Or
well, I suppose I'm more thinking of test in terms of quality, not necessarily, hey, that sounds good. But,
sure, okay.
when we make 1,000 of them, does it all sound like we intended it to sound?
So that's actually a really big question to some extent. So yeah, we have multiple teams. A load of products are built on like a common code base, which is it gives us a lot of opportunity and a lot of problems. We can add something to the core, and every product can possibly sort of win from the feature additions, and you can add something to the core and break everything for everyone. So that's an interesting challenge. In terms of, but we have multiple different, as you say, different code bases, different product lines. And coding standards, I don't know if you were in the sort of the little bun fight we had upstairs earlier today. We'd talk about, there are different coding standards and different projects work in different ways. We do try to be quite similar in the way we follow through with our QA process. And we very sort of quickly move people into a similar process with code in terms of like code review at merge request level. Either things are pair programmed or they're carefully sort of reviewed in code merge requests. We happen to use a GitLab instance, but whatever. Most of our projects are on that one instance. And so we try to sort of have good process. Ideally, everything is beautifully unit tested as well, good process around the crafting of the code. Once we get through to product and the QA process, obviously we want as much automated as possible. And we're increasingly working into this area. Once you're talking with physical hardware as well as software products, this becomes fascinatingly complicated. So we have some code bases that, I think of the MPC as an example, the thing that we're showing sort of out in the hall over there. That one code base, if we hit build, it builds a desktop Windows, a desktop Mac version, and multiple different versions for our embedded products. Brilliant. So that's like one build process. Yeah. The testing for that becomes sort of like this complicated, sort of exponentially increasingly interacting cube. So the software also works with all of the bits of hardware. So that's one of our most complicated QA cycles, where we have to automate as much of that testing as possible, and we're nowhere near as automated as we want to be. And then we have a regimen of feature testing and that sort of release qualification sort of process that we have as a best practice that we roll out across the company. One of the things that we have learned is the more products you add to one product line, the more complex that grid of tests gets. And to some extent, you can sort of slice and you can say, okay, we're going to spend this period of time on a release qualification. We can slice and dice and sort of say, okay, we'll take this subsection of interacting things and do this set of tests. But you can only do that so long until you're not doing enough tests on anything that then the test cycle has to grow. And that's where the automation is particularly important. And that's our main focus right now, I guess. So that was a tricky question. I don't know if I sort of skimmed the surface or answered it well.
I was just thinking on, going back to 11, it's like there's only so much you can do on the test side too, because when we were actually doing a physical model and you're comparing the digital then to the analog, test takes on a whole different level because it's really hearing tests and lots of A/B, and then you're bringing out to expert listeners and people who are actually making the amps and whatnot, and it's just it adds so much more complexity because it's not like you can just phase flip with something that's already a very chaotic signal that can't be phase flipped.
Yeah,
right?
And some of those automated testing processes are actually surprisingly complicated. If we've got, there's a user flow, and we might have one of our QA folks sit down and work through and use the product. And just because they're human, as you're interacting with the product, you'll see, oh, the screen just did that on the way, and they'll notice something odd and obscure. That's right. Because humans are great at pattern matching. If we automate that, okay, you might get to the end result, and our automated test says, did this thing happen? And it did. But you missed the fact that the entire screen switched off or something. And so, even then, automation only gets you so far in building something that is, sufficient quality to actually be proud to give it to an end user.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm going to move this back to online. So another anonymous question. How do you cope with balancing development between new product research and development and legacy compatibility maintenance? So, gotta love that. So,
okay, so one of our developers, Nacho at the back there, who is an awesome developer, is living this one out. And I don't know if I'm going to give away too many trade secrets, but we have a product that has an old line of the code. There's one that's out there, and it's great, and it's making money. Yep. And making people very happy, and a new version we want to ship. And there's that is a constant struggle of we need to keep the old thing going, and the product is in no way going to be discontinued, but this interesting tension of, at some point, we need to focus our resource on completing the next gen. And the longer you leave that running, the bigger these things diverge and the more complicated it gets. And that is a genuine tension. And this is a tension sort of across the board. Some of that kind of thing where if you have a shared code base, with great power comes great responsibility, kind of like if you can change something in one place, but everybody gets the change. But like, where do you invest the effort? And there's a mantra on that project, which is death to master. And there's two parts of this, because we want to rename our, we want to rename the master branch main anyway, because we think that's a good thing to do. But the whole idea of killing the old branch, stopping shipping versions of that, and being able to get to this next generation release. Wow. And that's something we're sort of living out. There is no good answer to that.
Yeah, well, especially with such a large portfolio too. I can imagine that is just exponential, right?
Yeah. How do we prioritize that? It's I'll be honest with you. You do a little planning dance, and we work out a selection of features that we know we can fulfill in a period of time. We'll line them up, and I know now I've got some nice releases that will delight people over the next period of time, and that's going to cover us whilst we run over there and work very hard doing something else. Yeah. That's how you prioritize.
Yeah, brilliant. Another question from the room before I go to another online question?
I'm just wondering what you do regarding usability testing when you're creating a new product or adding a new feature. What do you bring people in and watch them use your software for the first time? I'm interested in things like that.
Totally do. Okay, so there's a couple of different things we do. I know this is interesting. If I keep telling stories, I'm just going to embarrass myself totally.
That's what this was called.
What this is for,
right? Storytelling with
embarrassing music or something. I'll give you my best usability story, which is not necessarily the way we do it. But we were releasing one product, and I have a team that's been working on installers. So we sell hardware, and often there's a lot of bundled software that comes with it, because that's the thing, you're going to buy a keyboard, but there's a whole lot of beautiful instruments so you can play with it, and it makes this keyboard really fun. And about a year ago, what we tended to do was just have lots of like random links that the user got as soon as they registered their product, and it wasn't really a very nice experience. So like all good grown-up companies, we built a nice installer platform where you can see automatically downloads, automatically installs. This is great. We wanted the whole experience to be as easy as possible for the user, so they just had the best time. So we did some usability testing of the final thing, and this was like the final end user testing to see exactly how the experience, did we boss this? So beautiful gift box that you open up and have this lovely experience. Two people we tested this on were so excited about getting into it, sort of ripped everything apart to get into it. And we had a little flyer to say, this is where you go to get your software. And in that like fury and excitement to unbox the product, they just discard the piece of paper. So they've got the keyboard there. What now? We're completely stuck. And it's like, okay. That was a really interesting learn, that you print that information on the box. So those are the kind of things you only get from some form of user testing. But we also have a good beta program. This is something we've been investing quite a lot in as well. We've run beta programs for a very long time, but now we're very specific about having good processes around this and forums and directed questions. That we get input from real-world users of all of our products, and we do a lot of soliciting. When we're starting a new product, we'll actually spend quite a lot of time trying to get a good pool of representative beta testers for that. We do sort of user, usability workshops, sort of a bit like I said, but we do that earlier in the process as well to avoid the embarrassing paper thing.
So just another related to that.
I think you're on.
Hello?
Yeah.
Do you do any kind of early prototyping, like before you actually start coding?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean,
prototyping designs and putting that in front of people.
Now, are you talking hardware? Or are you talking software? Because we do both. Okay. That's actually the hardware prototyping. I have to say that's all the whole hardware journey. I find some of the most fun stuff that we do. It starts from literally back of napkin scribbles. We've got the concept of a product, and then there's a lot of time in sort of like
cardboard boxes, bent metal, whatever. Just
well,
anything.
before we sort of get there. We do very bad Photoshop Illustrator stuff, and you dream the product. I've been doing this just last week. You dream the product you want to make, and then you make these low fidelity prototypes to begin to feel it out.
Styrofoam, that was always fun.
The styrofoam one where once we finally print something that actually really looks like the product, and you stand in front of it, and you sort of imagine the screen changing, and like, okay, is this button layout? Does this work? And then we can build up in incremental sort of prototype stages from there. We have had a crack at sort of Lego kind of mock-ups and stuff, but actually that sort of styrofoam version is the first thing you stand behind and go, this is definitely a product. Right. So yeah, we do a lot of that sort of stuff.
And then you lose them, they break. There's all kinds of great. You send it off to the customers, the parcel loses it. Then you're like, next time make 2 styrofoam models. Don't ever ship one out of the building. I guess the only comment I would add to that is, at DigiDesign and many products at Avid, I found that it was very useful to have essentially an expert alpha group that had nothing to do with your internal employees. Something where you would go out, and in the case of Avid, it would be film mix engineers or music producers or whatnot. And the teams typically would be 5 to 10 people, and I would call them my fight clubs. And I would position them purposely in different places of the world, and there'd just be pockets. So I wouldn't want them scattered. I would want them all in one place. There was my Austin Fight Club, there was my London Fight Club. And the idea was that we all had NDAs, and the thinking was very early prototypes. We could have these Zoom calls or pre-Zoom, fly out there, share it, and get super early feedback. And then as we adopted agile processes, they were part of the sprint demos. So we had to get their approval to move forward on anything. And it didn't have to be unanimous, but it would shake out stuff so early in the design process that really, our engineers were lovely, but they weren't actively working on records and film, 10 hours a day, nonstop, maybe 20 hours a day. And I felt that really accelerated the success of the products, not just the delivery of product, but the success. And so really think about incorporating users early on, and you'd be surprised how many users would want to join you on that journey, not even being paid, really. They'll do it because they love the process. They love that journey of developing something new. Always use the customer.
One of the things I actually find really fun, so we're not sort of like, not a lot of our products go for like expert composer or whatever. They're for people like us.
Right.
And a lot of the sort of the feedback and usability feedback just comes from the team as well, because these guys are expert users. We make the products, and then in the evening we make music with the products. We just love the stuff we build. And so there's a quality bar for us as well, that we actually care about it that much. We won't let a feature through if it doesn't work. And I've had some robust conversations with some guys going, "This is terrible, you shouldn't do it like this." But we love that because we are sort of the users of our own products, and I find that's a really powerful and genuinely exciting thing.
Another question on the massive portfolio that you're dealing with. So Anonymous asks, managing so many brands and products, how do you decide where to test your next innovative idea? Meaning, is one of the companies under your umbrella more focused on innovation than another? And also, what's your workflow for testing so many products, both hardware and software? So a complicated question there.
Okay, right.
Maybe we break it down to, I guess the umbrella and focused on innovation versus, I guess, sustaining product line.
Is one brand focused on innovation? 100% not. We have... They're not really sort of, they're brands as far as the customer sees them. They don't run as separate companies. That's one thing, and it's quite fun. We have like sort of an software engineering team and a hardware engineering team, and they work across all of the products. And that's some of the cool stuff that we can do, and we can take features from one place, use them in another place. That's kind of cool. That's work at scale. And making that work in and of itself, there's a lot of technical, but there's also a lot of just like personal into team working things just to make that work well. There's not too much siloing in the individual brands. However, there is someone, at least one person per brand, who's dedicated to that product line and thinking the next steps through for that product. So it's not like, M Audio, say, is doing all the innovative stuff and this is where we're thinking, and everything else is just like putting out generic stuff. It's ideas are being put out across product lines, across all of those brands. And And yeah, something that stands for M-Audio. M-Audio is pushing in one area where, say, Oasis drums for us, which is an exceptionally cool product line, sort of pushing innovation in that area. And if nothing else, it's usually, we don't want for ideas, and the poor tech team is like, okay, right, which of these things are we actually going to run with? And that's kind of that interesting puzzle point as well. Like we say, okay, we want to do this over there in DJ space, and we want to do that over there. And okay, can we kill two birds with one stone by sort of doing one great idea that then unlocks both of these? So there's an interesting tech sort of innovation balance, but yeah, everyone's pushing.
So do you have one core R&D team for all of those brands under the umbrella, or are there separate R&D teams?
It's one department over multiple sites. Some people will specialize in certain product lines, and some folks sort of can span across others. So yes and no.
Yeah.
There's a question over here as well.
This morning, Hayam Alami did a talk about cultural bias in music technology. And one thing, one of the main elements is tuning and the ability to have tuning other than 12 equal division of the octave. And so he was saying that technically, actually, there are solutions already there. So MTS, 1992 MIDI standard there, and MPE, polyphonic expression. So how do you decide whether you implement that in a hardware or software synth? And is there anything the community can do to help you make those decisions in a way that they do get adopted?
Okay, there's two questions there, and they're both really cool. I mean, we're listening. We're listening to the community as much as we can. And once you have as many products as this is not glib. But once you have as many products as we do, as many different users going on, there's an awful lot of noise coming from these, which is really exciting. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes people go, "Yeah, we love what you're doing," but the people who make the most noise are going, "You suck. This is rubbish because," and that's inevitable. We have on our especially the beta forums where we have sort of the really informed sort of representative users. We have a whole lot of feature polls, and there's a up voting, down voting, feature requests. So we take a lot of input from that kind of thing. So that's an important source of prioritization. And then, I mean, it's funny you should talk about micro-tuning, because I'm now not saying micro-tune is coming in any particular product line down the line, but there are conversations like this that we're also sort of chatting about, going, okay, right, so I see how we might do that. And again, sort of like, what are the technical problems for doing this? Because I'd love to just slide, say, MPE in as an example, but it doesn't just slide in for something like, if you look at the Force, there's already something like 6 different synth engines plus the drum sampler in there. And it's not just, we're just going to add MPE. There's multiple engines to add that to. And actually, is it acceptable to do that just for like one of the synth engines, or do we really need to put it across the entire board before you put it in? So these are the things that keep us up at night, sort of thinking, what's the right thing to do? And there's a danger sometimes of saying, okay, so that's a really complicated problem. So let's solve an easy one, because it's going to get us to something that's going to make someone happier faster, but it doesn't. So micro-tuning or something like MP probably is a good example of something that gets deprioritized, not because it's not an awesome thing to do, but just because the technical barrier between us and doing a really awesome version of that is a lot bigger than some of the other things.
Yeah, it's crazy exciting. Please do it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
A lot of questions coming in online. They're all related. They all have to do with automated testing and complexities of automated testing, especially when you're doing hardware and software for the same project. So possibly the Akai, MPC1, something like this. But questions about how do you manage it, but also what is the output you're looking for, and what happens when that output is actually an audio file or something that needs to be listened to. And so it's much. Cool. I would say there's at least 4 or 5 questions now in this direction.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, that's.
So I guess they're asking for your knowledge. The theme is tell us a little bit about automated testing with all these things under the umbrella, and maybe focus on one product that is complex in its hardware-software component in automated testing.
Okay, so let's say some of the things we're doing right now. So the dumbest thing, but it generates so much useful information, is just mean time to failure. So having units just running, you could just leave a unit running in a test environment and just leave it doing something like playing. Does it keep going for a week? Does it keep going for a month? But then we level up to that, and there are various next steps. One is the monkey test. So you just simulate button presses. You just throw mad presses, gestures on the screen, and just try to make it explode. This is not a useful test in terms of what a user would do, but my word, is that not like so awesome for just pulling out those idiot crash bugs very quickly. Those are really easy to construct. We can have them automatically deployed off of a Jenkins. So we have some products that, as part of a normal Jenkins run, we'll do a desktop install. This is all scripted, and then the instance will be set up, and we'll run through a whole lot of user interaction tests on the desktop, fire down, give the report off to Jenkins, and let that run. And then we have systems. I mean, this is just, you get systems to build systems, and everything gets very complicated. But then we have the same Jenkins instance able to deploy builds onto like a test farm of hardware. And I get very excited when I see these. It's like science fiction geekiness, but we have like shells in like sort of darkened cupboards. You know, all our products have flashy lights on them, so it's all very exciting. You sort of come in to just bathe in the neon glow of these products just flashing and doing all sorts of like backflips and tomfoolery. Those could be mean time to failure tests or suites of automated tests that they run through. The most of that right now is on our DJ product side. They haven't. You can never be done with the automated tests. That works in really quite a cool way. And then, as we're pushing more into that, this becomes part of the process in terms of the definition of done of a feature. So it's not just, a developer isn't done with a feature when it's, completed and thrown over to QA. It's done when it's fully through the process. And the definition of done includes having tests that are automatically run, deployed on the server, provably working and delivering value, so we know at least we're not going to regress. How do you design automated tests to know that they're good and sufficient? It's really blooming difficult, exactly as I said before, because designing good tests so that they're giving you representative information and capturing weird things on any step of the journey is remarkably complex, especially in the hardware world, because we have to build the framework to do that testing. So in all of the products, we have to have the sort of scripting system built in. The cool thing about those, again, no promise, but once you begin to build something that has that level of automation, you can turn that into a feature for the users in the future. So I see things in the sort of distant future that come out of this that actually give benefit to the user as well as to us. Sorry, that was rambling on a theme. I don't know if that was useful.
It was definitely a theme. Maybe we'll focus it with another question on the same topic. So the question was, in an automated test where the expected output is a audio file, and it's either a pass-fail. And let's say that in this case, the output was it's not a bit correct output. It caused a fail, but to the human ear, they sound exactly the same. And how far do you go down that path?
We have some tests in this area, that's the acceptance tests style of testing. So you run the product, you make a test recording, human ears listen to it, go, this is cool. It might be like with the guitar effect, you never quite know exactly when the thing's going to kick in, or exactly where on an LFO you are when that guitar tone goes through. So we have, and some of those guitar effects are particularly complicated because of the dynamic nature of the effect. And some things it's so difficult to do, it's actually easier to run through as a manual test. But we record a reference tone that gets committed, you rerun the operation, and then you sort of run, again, audio analysis to determine if it's statistically close enough. And that's a pass. If you get a failure, then we stop, we look at the test, we listen to the two files. Now, we don't expect failures to happen if you're not touching that section of code. If you do see a failure occurring, your test is brittle. We need to look at that, and we learn from those tests as to how good how robust our test is. And if the test has failed because someone's made a substantive code change in there, then we go back with human ears and go, this is still fine. You make that the new acceptance test reference.
Yeah, I remember that the biggest pain I had in that direction was I was back in that 32-bit, 64-bit transition of plugins, and at the time, the Avid portfolio probably had 120 some odd plugins, and every single one failed testing, right? As far as bit for bit perfect, and it all required listening tests, and it was really just got to the point where we had to use those expert Fight Club betas again, because were they going to trust our ears? Because they're the mastering engineers, and so when the mastering engineer says it was okay or close enough, we said, okay, it was close enough. But there must be another question in the room. Anything about any type of product development, could be nerdy hardware design, which I love.
Have you ever had a product or you've designed a product with this killer feature and it's turned out to be, utterly rejected? And conversely, have you ever had a product where something was just in there and people have gone, that's why I bought your product, and surprised you? Mm. And if either of those things were true, what did you learn about making sure that you got it right next time?
Okay, we definitely have. And again, I need to work out how to answer that in a way that doesn't do some sort of get me fired afterwards. I think the best example of things that haven't done as well as we expected. I mean, every product we ship, we're usually pretty excited about it. Sometimes things haven't done as well as we expected because, you could say we announced early, but whenever we release something that's like a major product line, we already know there are a number of updates that are going to come down the line, and there's this game. This is the release date. It's like if it's just a software product, you can sort of sometimes bump the release date. When there's hardware involved, it's an entirely different game in terms of moving dates. And sometimes we'll have released a product and really, it's not that it's a failure, but it doesn't really take off until we get, say, 2 updates down the line. And that's sometimes the thing that we made as the learn, that we thought people would go, this is cool as it stands, but really it was either the 2 updates worth of stuff that went, okay, now it makes sense, or what can also be the outcome of this is people see that product update and go, okay, they're updating it, they're committed to it, now I'm more bought in as well. So we've definitely had some of those experiences, for sure. And I don't think that got me fired.
So we are running out of time. I do want to take this last question from the online. It's a great one. And if we have to wrap here, it's a fantastic question. Where do you see the future of audio dev going? We got enough plugins and synths already. So what's next? Please don't say you're writing apps for Meta. That's terrible.
Okay, wow, it's a good question. There's nowhere near enough time to answer that one.
But where do you think it's going? I think it's so complex, with AI and machine learning, and you're doing these combined products that put it all together.
Yeah, the one thing I'm still struggling with getting, what is this the future, is VR. I can see AR experiences. Mm-hmm. The whole VR is the future, but we're performers. We play with things with our hands. Keyboard players, we're used to this. Even if you have the 5-dimensional stuff, it's all about the feel. Guitarists, it's all about the feel and the strings. And I'm still sort of working out what the VR playing might be. And there's lots of stuff that looks very exciting, very Star Wars. And I've seen lots of interesting demos of VR kind of thing, but it's still not quite the same as actually feeling the strings vibrating on your fingers. That's something we look at and say, I'm not quite sure what that is.
So I worked about 5 years in VR, right? And so one of the things that I loved about some of the stuff we were working on was, how do you start to sense haptics when there is no haptics or something there, right? And so one of the things was we were throwing a ball where the ball had to be caught and moved around. But the idea was there was just a little thump, just a low kind of thump that you would kind of translate once it hit the ball in the hand. And your brain, even though it had nothing to do with your hand, just associated that the ball just touched your hand. And I thought that was the start of something really interesting.
That's where we have to get to. So I think we're quite a way off of, if that is the future, especially for sort of performative musical experiences. I think we're still waiting for the tech to sort of become commonplace for that to be the thing.
the opposite side of that, just to tell you where that went, there was a lovely Swiss company that came to one of our VRLA events where they created a box with all these little air jets, and they were like micro-controlled. You couldn't even hear them come on. You're in there, and then as you were interacting with objects, it was precisely controlling what you felt on your body. It was just the worst experience absolutely ever. It terrified me. Yeah, so I'd go back to the little thumps. Yeah.
Sounds like strangely intrusive. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Hard to put in the back of your backpack or just.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
What
is
is
there
the
anything?
future? The future is still we will be making music. We will still be,
Yeah.
you know, we will be interacting with things. It will be collaborative.
Yeah.
It will be online. We're seeing a lot more of a pull towards, you know, at the moment it's like publishing stuff and shouting into the void, here's my stuff, but there'll be a lot more collaboration built into our devices, into our interactions. Music will become social, but in a way that isn't just.
Anything you could share there, or give us a little? Okay, yeah, that's
Or
exciting.
I'd have to kill you.
I mean, collaboration, right? That's huge, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And we've been dealing with this forever. Yeah.
Definitely a topic for a conversation over a bit.
Yeah, lovely. To be continued. I think we're all done. Thank you for joining us. Pete, thank you for this lovely discussion.
It's fun.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, and to all the folks online. Yeah.